This is Bishop Dale Bronner. Thank you so much for joining our YouTube channel today. If this is a blessing to you, I want to encourage you to like it and then click the subscribe button and then turn on notification. Hit that little notification bell so that you never ever miss another one of our videos. And then if you're in the Metro Atlanta area on a Sunday, check out one of our exhilarating services at 8:30 a.m., 11 a.m., or 6 o'clock p.m. Well, our scriptural text today comes from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 10 through 16, reading from the New Living Translation. Notice here the word of the Lord. Carefully determine what pleases the Lord. Take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness. Instead, expose them. It is shameful even to talk about the things that ungodly people do in secret, but their evil intentions will be exposed when the light shines on them. For the light makes everything visible. That's why it is said, awake, O sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. So be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. And I'm speaking today simply from the subject, redeem the time. Redeem the time. In all honesty, God is the only one who can redeem time because he's the only one who's not subject to it. So he's a great redeemer. Now we do our best to try to redeem time through creams and Botox and facelifts and, wigs and special sprays and all kind of stuff. We try everything that we can to try to redeem the time. But even though you put lipstick on a pig, it's still pork, isn't it? And so we have to be able to trust God to be able to do what we cannot do. We really do. I know the New Living Translation says here, make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. The King James Version, I love King James in some things, redeeming the times because the days are evil. Redeeming the times because the days are evil. And if you'll notice how this passage, it includes it in verse 14, Ephesians 5:14, it says, awake, awake, O sleeper. They're quoting here from Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 19, and also Isaiah chapter 60, verse 1 and 2. Awake, O sleeper, rise up from the dead, and Christ will give you light. Notice this, that before anything can be redeemed, one has to awake. And then one has to arise. Because Christ doesn't begin to give you light until you get up and start moving. You have to wake up, awake, and then arise. Nothing will happen to you while you're sitting in the bed, daydreaming and trying to plan things out. You have to wake up, awake, and then arise. Because if you don't awake and if you don't arise, you'll never be able to achieve. So you got to get up. You've got to get up. An older man told me this one time, I never forgot it. He said, never make the decision when you're not feeling well, whether you're going to go to work or not, while you're still in the bed. He says, get up, take a shower, have a cup of coffee, and then decide. And 9 times out of 10, you will drag your behind on to work. I mean, half the battle is just trying to get out of the bed. It's just getting out of the bed. But if you wake up in the morning and you ask yourself while you're still laying in the bed, here you are just lying there and asking yourself, do I feel well enough to go to work today? Get up, take a shower, have something to give you a little energy, then make that decision. Awake, arise, and then Christ will give you light. I don't know how many times I have had experiences of where God told me to do something and he didn't reveal the whole plan. But you got to just trust him. Get up, Abraham, and go into a place that I will show you. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he had to awake, he had to arise, get up, and bust a move and start walking. You don't need any light until you start moving. You don't need light until you start moving. And if you're waiting for God to show you how everything is going to fall into place in your life, you'll be a day late and $1 short. So you may as well awake, arise, bust a move, and then Christ will give you light. Light represents enlightenment or understanding. And you've got people who are saying, I don't know what to do. Well, do something. If you just get out and start working, you will stumble upon purpose that God has hidden in opportunities that are right around you. And sometimes if you just get up and start moving, it may not be the best place, but then you'll be working down there and then somebody else will say, hey man, I heard that so-and-so is hiring over here. Let me tell you about this particular opportunity. And you'll get hooked up because you got up and you got out and started moving, and then Christ begins to give you light. He hides clues to his purpose for your life and to your destiny in your personality. In your gifts, in your talents, in your abilities, in your opportunities, in the people that you meet. He has hidden hints of it all along the way, but you'll never know that and discover that and find that until you awake, arise, and bust a move. And then Christ will give you light. Anybody that's waiting on understanding, tell them to get up, wake up, and get moving. And then Christ will give you life, because the only thing that comes to a sleeper is a dream. Awake, arise, bust a move, and then Christ, he'll give you light. Redeeming the time means to rescue from loss, whatever has been lost. Redeeming the time, it means to rescue something, to buy it back from loss. You know, you can have some taxes or something due on a piece of property that's paid off, but then the taxes haven't been paid, and then you have to go and redeem it. You have a certain period of time to be able to redeem it, and if you don't redeem it, it could be lost forever. And you have to be able to redeem. It's redeeming. This is the recovery time. Prophetically, it's time to recover some stuff that has been lost in our life and left behind. And so we are rescuing certain things from loss. What do you need to rescue from loss in your life? What needs to be rescued by you? Have you ever gotten up and got involved in a deal, tangled up in a deal, and then it turned out to be a waste of your time? You know how that makes you feel when you've wasted your time? If anybody is in sales, anybody in sales in the house? You're in sales? No matter what it is, I don't know whether you sell houses or cars or products or whatever. If you're in sales and you fill yourself with knowledge and information to be able to help people to make a decision, and you know, I had the frustration of realtors so many times when they're showing people houses and showing people driving, burning your gas up, going over to this place and that place, and then they never make a decision. And there's a certain amount of futility that you feel, like you have wasted your time, and you don't get your time back. Nobody's going to give you that time back. Once time is gone, it's gone forever. Only God can redeem time. Only God can redeem time. Only God has the ability to redeem time. There's sometimes that you'll realize in the previous years of your life how you wasted time in relationships that didn't pan out to anything. And sometimes you get mad because you wasted time and money and energy, effort and creativity. You just wasted. It's just gone. It's just gone. It's just wasted. How do you get that back? Have you ever regretted giving people time and it didn't pan out to be anything? So how do you redeem the time? How do you redeem the time? Only God really has the capacity to help us to be able to redeem time that has already slipped away from us. And sometimes when you've given people and things and ideas times that panned out to be nothing, you have to come back to God and go to the one who is timeless, not subject to time, eternal, and just pray a simple prayer. Let me give it to you. Dear Lord, I'm sorry for missing it. If you arrange the time for me to do it again, I'll do it your way. Forgive me for trying to do it my way. Thank you for redeeming the time for me, empowering me to do more in the latter part of my life than I did in the beginning. In Jesus' name, amen. Sometimes you just need to pray a prayer, a simple prayer for the redemption of time that has been lost in your life, and said, God, if you'll do it. You know, one of the things the Bible would talk about, even as an Old Testament covenant promise that God gave to his people, he said that he would add, you know, if you'd walk upright and do the things that God told you to do, he said he'd add long life, length of days and long life. It sounds like they're the same thing, length of days and long life. I think, though, that length of days means that God gives you an uncanny ability to be able to get more done in less time. That's a supernatural way of being able to redeem time. If God, you know, there's certain things, if you have to figure it out, but sometimes you can have something in a dream. Have you ever had questions about something at nighttime, and then you assigned it to the committee of sleep, and when you wake up in the morning, you have clarity? And so if you keep trying to work on a problem while you're worn out, tired, exhausted, it just takes so long and you make a lot of mistakes. But if you will approach it fresh, with a fresh mind, fresh eyes, fresh energy, you can work and accomplish much more in a shorter period of time. I love here how Ephesians 5:15 says to walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. Walk circumspectly. Circum means around, spec means to look. When he says walk circumspectly, walk looking around. Don't just be, you know, with your head down and you're not even noticing people around you. Your assignment is people. You're rushing off to a thing, to a job, when God's real assignment in your life are the people that are planted on your journey along the way. But if you are unwise, you'll be so busy with things in your ears and distracted and avoiding people. The very reason that God put you in the earth was to be able to do something and provide something to people, to make a difference in the lives of people, to serve people, to love people, to witness to people. Our life is connected inextricably to human beings. And if you walk where you are not circumspect, that's the problem with social media. How can you be circumspect? You don't know what I'm doing. I'm on a Zoom meeting, but I'm texting on my telephone, but while y'all, you know, you can't even see me. But I like when you would go to grandma's house and grandpa's house, because they had no distraction. And they just looking at you. They looking you up and down. Oh, they're very suspect. They're reading stuff about you. They can look at you and tell when you got an eating disorder. Oh, they know when your mind is off. That's, you know, they'll tell something wrong with that child. They know. You know why? Because they are circumspect. They're looking around. You notice that they ain't half eating the thing while they're here. They are noticing they're reading little details. She and her husband, something going on between them. Or they see stuff you've been living with. How did you know that? They haven't even been there 3 minutes yet. I know my daddy told me that he brought a girl home one day, and he said, Mama looked over her glasses. And he was like, Mama, you don't even know her. As soon as that girl went back out of the house, my daddy knew. My grandmother said, don't ever bring that woman in my house again. Don't ever. Circumspect. My God, redeeming the time. You better thank God for that. When you got somebody who has eyes to be able to see, don't bring him in my house. Don't bring her to my house. Because they can see some stuff. When you fall in love, you can't see the trees for looking at the forest. But grandmama ain't in your forest. She done been around the block. Grandpa, he done been around the block. And you can't give him any wooden nickels. There's some things that they know, and so they help you to redeem the time when you got to have somebody who's already been where you're trying to go. Redeem the time. I'm telling you, they're circumspect. They looking around. They're measuring other stuff. You be all sharp and think that you got this going on, and they're reading something. Like that girl, she can't concentrate. Something wrong with her. Something on her mind. She worried. be cute as a button, a hair is laid, fingernails are done and everything, and you just think you're all polished, and somebody's reading you like a book up the front and down the back, and they know more about you almost at a glance than a psychologist and psychiatrist having 8 weeks of sessions with them. I'm just telling you, when we couldn't afford therapy, our ancestors were our therapy. At every family reunion, there was somebody. They didn't say much. Because you see, that's the difference. Wise people, they are circumspect. They're looking, they're not running their mouth. And they carry their wisdom like a pocket watch. They don't tell you the time unless you ask them. They're not trying to impress you with what they know. Because that's a waste of time. You be casting your pearls before the swine, but when somebody gets really hungry, they say, hey, what time is it? You carry your wisdom like a pocket watch. You don't even pull it out of your pocket to look and tell somebody the time until they ask you. Walking circumspectly. That's one way that you redeem your time, to walk circumspectly. I love the fact that wise people are always looking for wisdom. Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 13, notice this. Blessed is the person who finds wisdom and one who obtains understanding. Blessed is the person who finds wisdom. You don't just stumble upon wisdom and find it if you're not looking for it. The person who finds wisdom, they find it because they are looking for it, because an unwise person can have exposure to wisdom and they won't even get it. They can be sitting in the same meeting that blessed your soul, and then they didn't get a thing, and then you're looking at them, it's like, were we even in the same? They're not looking, they're not circumspect. But when you are circumspect and walking as wise, blessed, there's a blessing in the person who finds wisdom and anyone who obtains understanding. But you don't just stumble upon it. You have to be searching for it, circumspectly, looking for it. The wino on the street has some wisdom for you. You'll be surprised. Everybody is my teacher. Circumspect people, and sometimes if it is nothing else that they teach you the kind of person to avoid. They teach you what you don't want to become in your life. They teach you. So there's a lesson that they carry, and when we're wise, we'll see it. In some of the writings of the Talmud, this is where we get this understanding that we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. That comes from the Talmud. The original writings of the Talmud. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And that's why wise people who are circumspect are looking and recovering things, because they realize time is not forever, not here in the earth realm. So to redeem the time, you have to think about the future and how limited your time is on the earth. And to do that, you have to prioritize the day, and you have to think about the decade. Here's the way I would say it. If you want to be on track to achieve something in 10 years, what do you need to do today? If you want to be on track to achieve something in 10 years, what do you need to do today? And it brings it down to an actionable item today about 10 years. That's how you redeem time. You redeem time. Can I give you a word of wisdom? It is wise that when God has given you a life assignment, you don't retire from something, you retire to something. You mess up if you just retire from something and you don't retire to something. How dare we retire from something without retiring to something? You start really deteriorating when you don't find your to. Yes, I will retire from the pastoring of this church at some point. I will retire. I'm not going to be here mumbling to myself. I will retire. You're not going to have to funeralize me out of the pulpit. I will retire. But I'm retiring from a responsibility, but I'm retiring to something. Well, I'll still have impact. wouldn't it be crazy to take all of my wisdom to the grave as long as I can still speak and articulate concepts and ideas and principles and lay my hands and say, God, don't you dare forsake me until I'm able to give what you've given to me in my generation to another generation so that they can know you, God. I'm retiring to something. I'm retiring to something. I don't want to just be a star player all of my life. I've got to get to a place where I'm a coach, and I'm in my coaching years now, to where I want to help other people win on the field. It's not about me. Every pastor, I understand this, every pastor in its truest sense is an interim pastor. So I'm going to retire to something. I'm going to help other folks win. I want to help them to be better. I want to help them to be better leaders. You don't retire from something, you retire to something. Where are you going if you just retire? You can only play so much golf and sit on so many porches and look out at water. You can only take so much trips before you get weary. You have to retire to something. God will call you to something. I don't care if it's planting gardens and whatever it is, but you find something that you retire to. I don't know who I'm talking to in this place, but don't you ever abandon yourself and sit around and start just rusticating off in the country somewhere and just mumbling to yourself. Retire to something. Keep reading stuff. Keep your mind active and sharp and find somebody to pour into. And the more you find the people to pour into, the more that God will pour through you. I started as a young teenager. As a young teenager, before I'm ever pastoring a church, every week, not a week would go by that I wouldn't send prophetic messages to at least 5 people as a teenager. And I wasn't saying, Lord, do this for me. No. I realized that whatever gift and calling that was in my life was not for me. It was for others. And sometimes, if it was just a letter, and I would write long letters to people. I wrote some to some of my teachers. In college, I wrote some to teachers there. I wrote some to the dean. I had one of the teachers, and I'm sitting in class, and the Holy Ghost gave me a revelation. I sat out and wrote a 2-page letter to them prophetically. They were so shaken by the prophecy, they reported me to the dean. I went to the office, and I'm there with the professor and the dean. I asked one question. Did they say that what I said in the letter was true or not? And they said, they admitted that it was true, and they said, this young man must be clairvoyant or something. I said, or something. But it is amazing. And so I'm not pastoring then, but when ministry is in you, it's going to get out of you. God's whole purpose is to get it out. That's why you don't retire from, you retire to. God is always, and I'm just here to tell you, I'm here to remind you, whatever God calls you to is always greater than what he calls you from. If he's calling me out of the world into his marvelous light, the light is better than the darkness. Heaven is better than the earth. I'm just telling, whatever God calls you to is better than what he called you from. So it's going to be a promotion. Absolutely. It is a promotion. So don't get it twisted. God's promoting you. And how's he going to promote you if you're so insecure because your identity is in where you've been? Walk circumspectly, looking for new opportunities. The Lord to say, what do you have for me in this season? When you walk with God in his garden, it produces different things in different seasons. And those different things that it produces in that season have vitamins and minerals to nourish you in that season, to protect you in that season. God will plant in the season what you need in that season to be sustained. So why are you in love with summer fruit while you're in a winter season? Or in love with winter fruit or vegetation while you're in a summer season? Let him feed you for the season that you're in. But don't just retire. Let it be your goal to retire from something. Retire to something. Walk circumspectly. Walk circumspectly. And think about it. One thing, you spend a third of your life sleeping, make sure you have a good mattress. A third of your life, invest in a good mattress. Another third of your life is going to be at work. Get some good shoes. You're going to be in shoes. Get a good one. And finally, choose a good partner. Or you will be restless on your mattress and irritated and frustrated in your shoes. Can I ask you this question? What's robbing your time? Remember, if there's a redemption of time, it's because something has robbed it. Lost money can be regained. Lost time is gone forever. May I say this to you, that instead of allowing things to rob your time, use your time thoughtfully to create moments that become powerful memories. Just use your time thoughtfully to create moments that become powerful memories. What do you get the person who has everything? A memory. Create a unique experience and allow them to experience something that they will never forget. There are certain moments that stand out in my mind because something unique happened in that moment, and I just never forgot it. I never forget, it was an incredibly lugubrious occasion out in a cemetery while I was doing the final rites to a dear person that had died, and there was so much grief in the church, in the funeral, and when I got to the gravesite to do the gravesite ceremony, so much incredible grief with the type where they were trying to climb on top of the casket and all of that. And I'm walking back to my car after the services have concluded. And walking through the cemetery, I come across a tombstone that read, "I told y'all I was sick." And it was such a serious moment, and I got so tickled, and by the time I was back to my car, both of my shoulders were just going. But this lady had complained, obviously, so much, and they didn't believe her. And she made them she had it in her will, put it on the tombstone. "I told y'all I was sick." And obviously she was. Now, I don't know what any other tombstone said, but I remember what hers said. And it made my day, it lifted my spirit, it shifted my whole time, because somebody used creativity in a sad place and brought victory. They were ministering from the grave. Because a merry heart, the Bible says, does good like a medicine. And it was medicine to me. You can only handle so much grief at one time. And that was a medicine sent from God into my life. And as many times as I've been to cemeteries, and how beautiful some of the landscape happens to be, but this one had creativity to it. "I told y'all I was sick." And it just blessed my life, but I never, ever forgot it. You know why? Because life is not just life. Life is a collection of memories. Don't just live your life in routine, doing the same old boring things every day. Eating oatmeal. If you got to eat oatmeal every day, at least save your money. Go on a cruise and be out on the balcony where you can have oatmeal looking at ocean. Create a memory. Create a memory. Live by creating a memory. I remember back in the 70s, I was visiting my aunt and uncle and cousins up in St. Louis, Missouri. And my grandmother was with me. So we flew from Atlanta to go to St. Louis, and there we're at the airport, and I see a lady that I recognize from television. And immediately I tell my grandmother, I said, "You know who that is? I know this woman. I see her all the time on television." I said, "That's Aunt Esther from Sanford and Son. It's LaWanda Page." And I told my grandmother looked at me, she said, "No, it's not, baby. That's not Aunt Esther." I said, "Yes, it is. Yes, it is." And then I politely walked over. I was probably 12 years old. I walked over to this lady and looked up at her. And I said, "Do you play Aunt Esther on Sanford and Son?" She was very gracious to me. She looked at me and she smiled. She said, "Yes, baby. Yes, I am." And when I went back to my grandmother across the way, my grandmother was like, "You're not going to make a fool of me." But I came back and I told her, I said, "I told you that was LaWanda Page." I knew her. I looked at it every week. I knew her. I had heard her call Fred Sanford a fish-eyed fool so many times. I knew who she was. But my seeing her in person created a wonderful memory. I never, ever forgot it. Now, I've been into St. Louis airport many times, but what made that one different was a memory. It was a memory. Do something out of the ordinary that requires engaging your imagination and your creativity to create a memory. When you get older, your life is a collection of these special moments, and they are never the same moments. This when somebody with a bold personality has done something audacious and bodacious, and they have done something that was just crazy, and they, and you were embarrassed, and you were like, "Oh my God, please don't let them say anything, God, please." And then, but down the road, you remember the time when Mama or when Grandmama, and you will remember these times, and they create memories that can never, ever be forgotten. You can't unsee that stuff. You cannot unhear it. It marks you forever. It creates a memory. You can take an ordinary situation and create a memory, because life is a collection of memories. And if you'll submit yourself to God and trust God to redeem the time, everything will come to you at the right time. Take a look at this little picture. Everything comes to you at the right time. You see, when it's 10, it's not there yet. But when it was, I don't know, I guess that's 9:15. Or it's 2:45. But now the time is right, that it bridges the gap, and sometimes you just have to wait for the hands of time to align, and then your journey can be completed. Everything comes to you at the right time. Not when you're impatient, it comes to you at the right time. Now, let me give you just a few closing practical ideas to help you to redeem the time. Number one, eliminate, delegate, and automate. This helps to save your time. It redeems your time. That whenever you examine the things that are clamoring for and cluttering your time, ask yourself what you can eliminate. Ask yourself what only you can do and what someone else can do to help you, and then delegate that. And then automate. Use technology to automate certain things that you may be doing manually, and it's an incredible time saver. So eliminate, delegate, automate. That's number one. Number two, exercise your body and your mind at the same time. Exercise your body and your mind at the same time, which means that if you're in the gym, on the treadmill, if you're out walking in nature, have your earphones in and turn it into a learning time, to where you're listening to a teaching, or you're listening to an audio book, or you're listening to some type of informational podcast that is adding value to your life, so that you are exercising both the mind and the body at the same time. You're stacking these things that will double your impact. Number three, use your commute time as learning time. I like to call it automobile university. And if you're riding on the train or the bus, put your earphones in and just let it be a learning time. Use commute time as a learning time. It's a way to be able to redeem the time, especially if you get stuck in Atlanta's traffic. 285, 20, 75, 85. Carry something that can feed you, so you can be learning instead of just being stuck and frustrated the whole time. Number four, give your body the rest that it needs. Give your body the rest that it needs. Self-care is far different than selfish. Take care of yourself. When your mind and your body are rested, they function much more effectively and you can get more done in less time. Number 5, use a task manager to keep your brain clear. Use a task manager. They have so many apps and resources, tools through technology that can create to-do lists and remind you about particular things that help you to save space and time. So use those. Number 6, get a coach or a mentor. Get a coach, a mentor. Somebody to help you. You know the word expert, it comes from the Latin word experiere. It literally means that is taken out of experience, that is tested and proven. So this is not a theory. This is somebody that has walked and they've learned some things. They've learned some things. So get a coach, get a mentor, somebody who has been there and they've learned through experience. Because what that does, it shortens your learning curve. It shortens the learning curve. If you get somebody that has already been there, they can tell you what to focus on. They can tell you what not to focus on, that, hey, this is not going to be so important to you down the road, but here's what you need to focus on right here. Get a coach, get a mentor, because they will shorten your learning curve and it'll save you incredible time. That's why we use the whole expression, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Ride off of technology that somebody else has already developed. Learn from their mistakes. A fool does not learn from his own mistakes. A smart man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of the fool and the smart man. Experience is not the best teacher. It is the only teacher. It's either your experience or someone else's. So use their experience, grow from it, get a mentor, get a coach, and let that help your life. Number 7, dedicate a distraction-free zone in your home or in your office. Because when you need to get something done, you need to have dedicated time and space to be able to make that thing happen for you. That when I'm here, I'm going to put my phone on airplane mode, or I'm going to disconnect it from the internet so I won't get any temptations during this time. Put time slots of where you will have a distraction-free zone. My friend John Maxwell, when he would just do things, he had a chair in his office that he called his thinking chair. So he trained his mind that the only thing that I do in this chair is think. I don't talk on the phone. I don't scroll the internet in this chair. When I sit in this chair, his mind immediately, he knew I'm going to be in thinking mode. He had a designated time and space as a distraction-free zone. No phone here, no computer here. This is my thinking chair. You know, like on Blue's Clues? A thinking chair. Just a thinking chair. It is a distraction-free zone that you can do. So if you're at work, close your office door. An open door is an invitation for interruption. And as I don't mean all the time, but when you need specialized attention. Because if you ever get in flow where your ideas are flowing, as a writer, as a speaker, as a musician, if you ever get in flow, you really don't want anybody to mess your flow up, because it might take you another 2 hours to try to get back, and you may never get back. And there are some things, you know, that have come to me in the realm of the spirit. The spiritual things are like a cloud of smoke. You can see it at the moment, but if it evaporates on you, you'll be just, it's gone. You saw it, but it's gone. And if you don't record it some kind of way, it'll be gone. And you'll be standing there scratching your head. It may come back and it may not. So you better make sure that you have a place to be able to put it. But here is what I would finally tell you. Trust God with your life. Trust God with your life, your time. The psalmist said it in Psalm 31, verse 15. I think he said it best. My times are in your hands. Deliver me from the hands of my enemies and from those who pursue me. David committed himself to God, and he trusted God with his life. And he believed that God would not allow him to perish at the hands of his enemies. That God would decide the time and the way that his life would end. It is our way of saying, God, I'm submitted to you. I'm going to do whatever it is, God, that you want me to do on this earth. My times are in your hand. And God, may you add length of days and long life to me. May you give me clarity of mind to be able to remember of your goodness, to tell of your goodness to another generation. I love it how Moses, at 120 years old, the Bible says that his natural force was not abated. He had the strength of a man about 40 years old. I would love to know what he was eating. But what clarity, what strength that he had to be able to impact another generation. It allowed him to make a difference for a long time. Because when you serve God, and remember, he spent 40 of those years in the wilderness trying to figure it out. But God redeemed his time by adding to him length of days and long life. He can empower you to be able to get more done in less time. This is the year of recovery. And I know mankind has no ability to be able to give you the time back. You know, it breaks my heart sometimes when I read stories about a person that has been wrongfully convicted of a crime and they've sat in jail for 25 years and all of a sudden DNA evidence reveals that they were not the rapist after all. And you're turned loose and they have robbed you of 25 years of your life. And now here you are. How do you redeem the time? The money really doesn't pay you back for that. You can't buy time. Only God can redeem time. Trust him by saying, God, my times are in your hands. And I'm going to live for you and believe that you will cover me, and I'm going to use the wisdom that you've given me to walk circumspectly while I'm down here at the earth, because you can be hit by somebody who's not circumspect because they are distracted. We live in the day of deep, major distraction and attention deficit disorder. And even sometimes when you give people your time, you're not giving them the most valuable part of you, which is your attention. Just because you spend time with a person does not mean that you are giving them your attention. And that's why the real art of communication is not in your ability to speak, but it is in your ability to actively listen. When you actively listen, you not only listen with your ears, you listen with your eyes. You listen with your posture. You listen with your expressions, with your whole being, that lets them know you have me here. I'm right here with you. And nothing more communicates more clearly that I value you than to give them the most precious gift that you really have, which is your time and your attention that is focused on them in that moment. Just focus it and give God your time and said, Lord, my times are in your hands. And whenever you have been out in the world doing crazy things, wasting time, realize it wasn't all wasted because it taught you something, even if it was just what you didn't want. But I encourage you that if you feel like you've wasted a whole lot of time and you're discouraged and you're wondering, how in the world can I get up now? I've wasted my whole life. You'll be surprised. Sometimes your biggest impact can be made in your latter days. It was Samson, one of the deliverers of the nation of Israel, who accomplished more in his death than he did in his life. God is just that kind of God where you can make your biggest impact on your way out. I was doing a study one time of interesting statements that people had as their last words that were spoken before they died. I was absolutely shocked at the futility of one man's word as he sat up in the bed on his deathbed and he looked around the room, and his final words were, "That is the ugliest wallpaper I have ever seen," and laid back in the bed and shut his eyes and died. It was so bizarre, I remembered it, But I want my final words I'm a jokester. I'm going to tell them, I left the money in the... And then I'm going to collapse down into the bed, and then I'm going to rise up and say, psych! When your life is submitted to God, it is the enabling power of the Holy Spirit that enables us to be able to redeem the time. Even when you wake up at a late hour in your life and you wonder, God, why did you let me wait until I'm at this point? Why didn't you give me this when my body was strong? My mind was super clear. And when I had oodles of energy. But you know, God knows what he's doing, because it is in our weakness that his strength is made perfect. And when they know that God can bring something from an old man or an old woman, and I'm telling you, we've been through a dispensation of where there has been such a flippant regard for eldership and age and seniority. But once again, God is going to give the gift that only older people can carry in their wisdom and in their perspective and understanding of life events. Solomon was about 70 years old when he wrote all of his great wise sayings. He had a grasp of understanding, and he knew more than anything what vanity was. The stuff that young people chase that doesn't amount to anything. And he's like, hey, come on, listen up. I'm going to tell you so that you don't waste your time. Sometimes he'll wait until you've gone so far on the journey, but what he taught you really wasn't for you, it was for another generation. You were carrying something for your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. And that's why the Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Because now you've got perspective, and you've got the experience. You've got this that has come out of tested and proven experience. This is not a theory. This is to say the God that I have served, that has brought me through many dangers, toils, and snares. That he's given me a grace even to go on, and that even when I'm gone and you don't know what to do, trust in that one who brought me through my times of bewilderment and doubt. And you will come through so many places and times in your life where you'll have to depend on God, because life will inevitably bring you to times and seasons to where you will literally feel, I can't go through any further. I can't do this. It's too hard. I can't do this by myself. And you'll be ready to give up, and God won't let you give up. Stand to your feet for just a moment. On this journey of time redemption, you will need God in special ways to help you through some things that you hadn't banked on in this life. You really will. He's got to help you. And when you don't feel like it, that's never good enough for God to say, okay, since you don't feel like it, forget it. It doesn't work that way. God won't let you out of it that easily. You'll be complaining and griping, explaining to God why you can't do it any further. And yet at the same time, when he's called you to do something, he doesn't accept resignations. And neither does he accept excuses. I don't know why, but excuses just don't move God. I've never been able to get God to change his mind because I gave him 3 excuses, no matter how good they were. If God has called you to do something, He wasn't expecting for you to be able to do it on your own strength and resources without his help. So inevitably, you'll have to ask him to help you. Our times are in his hands. And there will be so many times that you just won't feel like it. When you've been underappreciated, abused, neglected, looked over, and you wonder, God, I'm tired of this. People criticize you, and you don't even want to do it anymore. And yet God will not let the negative experiences that you will have experienced cancel that assignment that he's put on your life. When God calls you, he knew something that we didn't know. And even if you have left by yourself, you're not really by yourself. But there will be so many times, particularly in the night, sometimes early in the wee hours of the morning, that you have to do just this. Press your way through. Press your way through. Can't give up now. You gotta press your way through. Press your way through. Press your way through. God's got something waiting if you press your way through. Can you say it with me? Press your way through. Press your way through. Can't give up now. You gotta press your way through. Oh, press your way through. Press your way through. God's got something waiting if you press your way through. Praise your way through. Praise your way through. Can't give up now. You gotta praise your way through. Praise your way through. Praise your way through. God's got something waiting if you praise your way through. Fast your way through. Fast your way through. You can't give up now. You gotta fast your way through. Yeah! Fast your way through. Fast your way. God's got something waiting if you fast your way through. Sing your way through. Sometimes you don't even have the words, but sing your way through. You can't give up now. You gotta sing your way through. Sing your way through. Oh Lord, sing your way through. God's got something waiting. You gotta sing your way through. Hallelujah to the Lamb. We hope that you enjoyed that message. Don't forget to like and subscribe and then press the notification bell so that you don't miss another one of our videos. And if you want to partner with us, click the Give Now button. Thank you for what you do.